Okay, welcome to Friday. Welcome to NewsNation. Let's end the week of drama in Minnesota with a look at what are just feels and what are the facts. Greg Bovino's coat, the Border Patrol commander in charge of the deportation operations in Minnesota. There's this feeling that's like everywhere on social media, so I couldn't ignore it, that this coat is him cosplaying as a Nazi. He says he's had the coat since '99. CBP issued, Custom and Border Patrol. So then the feeling shifts to, oh yeah? So then he picked that look back then to look like a Nazi. Look, the coat is definitely a throwback, but both German and American soldiers wore similar coats during World War II. And no, we've never seen a CBP official wearing that jacket. We've been looking all day. And we asked former ICE guys, and it was unfamiliar to them. So while the facts so far suggest this is not a cosplay, it is not wrong to feel and ask, why would anyone want to wear something that raises those kinds of questions? But I feel there are other facts about him that matter a lot more. The coat's a question mark. Okay, but we know that Bovino is more feel than fact on ICE detaining a 5-year-old kid and reportedly using him as bait. Listen.
The 5-year-old yesterday, some of you had questions on the 5-year-old yesterday. That 5-year-old remains with his family. We say it again, remains with his family. We know that. Let's talk about who doesn't remain with her family. Rachel Morin. She left behind 5 children. Let me say that again. She left behind 5 children after she was killed by an illegal alien from Central America. She's separated permanently from her 5 children. Don't come across the border illegally, especially don't commit crimes, or there will be consequences.
Here's the problem. Those are facts that are unrelated to what he's talking to. Nobody questions that anyone who is a violent predator, who's here illegally, that those people should be removed, and yesterday. There is a consensus on that. But you're bringing up a murderer in the context of a 5-year-old kid whose father is not a murderer. And Liam is separated from his family. Fact. He is currently sitting in a detention center with his father in Texas. He is 1,000 miles from his mother and sibling because you took him. Fact. Liam's father is not even an illegal immigrant. He's not even illegal. Okay? Go call me Fredo. Hurts my feelings. He didn't illegally cross the border. His lawyer says he came through at a port of entry, claimed asylum, and was paroled into the country. Now, you could say, oh, asylum. Hey, that's your feeling. But until this lame-ass Congress changes the law, that is how it works. Another fact, Liam's father was not a public safety threat while here. So why bring up a homicidal monster who killed somebody when it's out of context? This is why people believe you're doing too much, because you see all these people the same. And not everyone who you're going after is the same. The VP also suggested the father entered illegally, so did DHS, and that the agents had no choice, had to detain the 5-year-old, or he would have frozen to death. None of that is a fact. The feeling is that Vance is being intentionally dishonest, especially after he said that if they didn't detain the kid, every criminal in America with their kid would get off scot-free. That's not a fact and not even logical. The idea that the 5-year-old is a one-off is also a feeling. Why? Because we keep seeing video after video of them chasing all kinds of people that just can't fall into the bad hombre category. Just today, look at this kid. A 2-year-old detained by ICE with her father while coming home from the grocery store yesterday. The family's attorney says a judge stopped the removal and ICE deported anyway. The Minnesota Secretary of State just posted a video of ICE chasing and tackling a child while he's yelling in Spanish, "I'm legal." Okay? Well, he's yelling in Spanish, so he probably isn't. Really? That's a feeling. And it's an ugly one. Okay? This is why people are angry. Oh, yeah, but he's not here illegally. You don't know that. And even if he were, this is what we need in America. This is something that's such a priority that we need to have federal agents running around and doing this. That's how important it is. That's how much it matters, right? How is that a fact? Another fact, the administration has consistently concluded no wrongdoing by agents, even though they haven't fully investigated the facts. The ICE agent that killed Renee Good, the president said the agent was run over. Not a fact. The DHS secretary, the shooting was justified almost immediately. How would she know? There's still no word of an actual federal investigation into the shooting, and there's reporting just now that the woman who was tasked with looking into it, who wanted to make it a civil rights investigation, was told, no, you make it into an officer assault investigation, so she just resigned. That's a fact. DHS says how agents are using pepper spray is normal training. Shooting at point blank, spraying it directly in the eyes of a subdued protester, hospitalizing 2 kids, including a baby. It's not just following training. It's doing too much. Fact, some protesters have gone too far. You touch an ICE agent, you mess with their vehicles, you thwart an operation, that is not a protest. It is likely a crime. That is a fact. However, and I know this is sensitive, hear me out, disrupting a church service may be illegal. I know places of worship are protected spaces, but it is not a fact that the law was broken until we have an adjudication. That's called due process. And there's no reason to have your feelings overtake the facts. All right? Let it play out. The feeling that they overstepped with what they did in that protest, it's not an unreasonable feeling, but it is a feeling, okay? As opposed to this fact. The protests are not all violent, not even close. Look, we just be showing the pictures. Thousands of Minnesotans and who knows who else is there with them. 10-degree weather, peacefully marching in an ICE-out protest today. Over 700 businesses closed. Dozens of places of faith shut their doors in solidarity. These are not the actions of insurrectionists. Hey, can you also feel like, well, how is shutting businesses hurting ICE more than it's hurting the community? I don't know. It's an open question, but that's just a feeling. It's not a fact. It's not a fact that everything ICE is doing is justified because President Biden let in so many undocumented people. That's not a fact. And saying 10, 15, 25 million illegals is not stating a fact. You're obviously guessing. We don't know. Are there a lot? Obviously. But it's not a fact. Those numbers, you're throwing out different numbers. How can it be a fact? The feeling among MAGA that Obama did even more than what Trump is doing, but the left was only outraged by Trump because they hate him? I don't think so. President Obama deported more people than Trump has so far, but he did it over 8 years, and most of them were at the border. And we have never seen roundups and incidents like we're seeing in Minneapolis in the modern era. We haven't seen anything like this. Forget about Obama. Since FDR, if you want to pin it on a Democrat, when the Japanese were being rounded up and put into an internment camps. Obama, by the way, was protested against for going too far. Kids in cages, family separation, extended detention. And here's a fact. 2 wrongs, Obama doing too much and Trump doing too much, don't make any of it right. Here's another fact. It is a feeling that local leaders refusing to assist ICE is a crime. Sanctuary cities, you don't have to like them, but they've been found consistently to be constitutional. And it is not a fact that sanctuary cities release all violent criminals rather than allowing ICE to detain them. It is a fact that they don't have to hold someone if there's no federal warrant, and it is a fact that if there were more coordination with local, state, and federal, we would not be seeing what's happening in Minneapolis. That's why I went after the vice president for not meeting with the governor or the mayor. If you want things to get better, you got to meet with the people who are making them the way they are. Fact. New reports say DHS is creating a watch list of people who exercise their constitutional right and film ICE agents. Hey, Gadsden Gang, where's the Gadsden Gang? Screaming, don't tread on me about this. Where are you? Keep that same energy, not just when it's one side or the other. If you're about a principle, be about that principle. Fact. You cannot name any law enforcement agency that claims they don't need a judicial warrant to enter a home short of hot pursuit, except ICE. FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, every other local law enforcement agency in America all recognize the need for a judicial warrant for a search and seizure of a private residence. And by the way, it's a low bar. You need a judge to sign it, but it's just probable cause. It's a 50-50 proposition. It's a low bar, and they still don't want to do it at ICE. And by the way, until recently, ICE also agreed on that premise. The battle here is whether ICE is doing too much or simply has much to do. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.